Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Hot Seat. Hot Seat is a new video series that I'm starting where I invite on some of my good friends, community members, or just random people on the internet that want to have a real, honest, deep conversation. It feels like nowadays in the world, those conversations are few and far in between, and I'm trying to bring them back. And so myself and Akaash had did a great job at doing so, let's say the least. This conversation is one that we'll remember for quite a while, and we really hope that you enjoy. Thank you for watching. So, Akaash, my friend, what has been coming up for you recently?
Oh, such an open-ended question. Where to begin? Where to begin? Okay. There's something that's been on my awareness like in the last few hours that has been, I think, an indicative thing or ongoing thing for me for a while now. So I think it'd be good to talk about. So I've had a really strained relationship with Twitter.
Have we all, man?
Yeah, right? So there's a part of myself that's always been pulled to Twitter to like practice my expression. You know, that was one of the main goals for me a few years ago, and I was like, oh, I want to practice speaking or writing out loud what it is that's coming up in my mind, because I had a lot of fear around putting my thoughts out there. So I was like, okay, Twitter's a public space. I'll find some other people that are also, hopefully the algorithm will lead me to people that are also like-minded, and good things will happen. And great things have happened. Like, I'm basically here because of Twitter. Like you and I are having this conversation because of Twitter. But it's always felt strained for me because there's so much messiness with my intention versus what I actually write or what I actually put out there. So like today I put a really heartfelt tweet. So I made just a little bit of background. I made a kind of a commitment to myself to start voicing things that I'm seeing in the collective. And just to practice, like I'm not trying to like, pretend like I'm some expert or anything like that, but just to practice like sharing my voice and seeing what happens. So I wrote this kind of piece, and it was about how I feel like a lot of traditional paths and whatnot that exist today for a lot of spiritual development, how they're too rigid and they don't teach the seeker how to follow their own intuition, their own voice, right? So I thought it was like a unique take on something. And this little corner of Twitter I'm on, everyone's like a Buddhist. Everyone is following some tradition or the other. So I wrote this like piece and I was really happy with it. And I hit post, and literally within 5 minutes, this guy responds with like a 6-tweet response, like basically logically dismantling everything I wrote. And what I was pointing to was something very subtle, something that's like, it's not about the logic of what I'm saying. It's not like I'm trying to give you a perfectly coherent argument for why you should believe my words. It was more of just me sharing my truth and what I'm seeing. But obviously on Twitter, it's like, how can people feel that through your words? And so this guy like had just like, to a third party person reading his response, they're probably like agreeing with him, like, oh yeah, this guy is like, yeah, this, So I started to get in my head about, am I like not doing a good job articulating myself? Is this person right? Like, or in other words, am I wrong? Like, do I have the wrong view on this? Should I not trust myself? Should I not write these things? And it's honestly, I've been in my head about it for the last 2 hours. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna deactivate my Twitter account. Maybe I should stop posting. Like, I'm going all over the place.
I love it, man. It's so funny. It's like a welcome to Twitter moment. You know, our basketball fans, everyone has like a welcome to NBA moment where they play against LeBron and they dunk on him, whatever it may be. Yours was a welcome to Twitter moment where you just get bashed on there, at least in your words, whatever that may be, with some logical reasoning that makes you feel dumb or stupid or wrong, whenever that is. So yeah, that's so amazing that you're sharing that. So how do you feel about that? Do you feel like you were wrong? Do you feel like your tweet was invalid?
No. I feel like, so I felt my defensiveness get triggered though. So I initially was going to respond to him and start explaining to him that, hey man, you're looking at the surface. I'm looking 5 layers below you, and try to own him. And as I was writing that response out, I was like, wait, this is a reactive reply. Like I'm not trying to be reactive in my life anymore, you know? So I recognize at that point that I'm getting triggered, basically. Like I'm in an emotional moment where I'm feeling some amount of doubt about what I wrote. So I sat with the doubt, and then I realized that, like, no, what I wrote was my truth. It's what I see, and I believe it, and I stand by it. Maybe there's a better way to express it. Maybe there's more clarity I can offer in my words. Maybe writing is a hard medium through which to convey those things. All that is fair. I'm also starting to see my doubt as a gift, because it allows me to, like, refine, you know? But initially it was definitely very triggering. But then over the last, like, hour, I still feel myself, like, there's like a sting of that guy's words. He unfollowed me after, you know? So I'm just like, I triggered this guy with my words is really what happened.
Yeah, most definitely. It's so funny. It's so funny to see people's reaction like that when they themselves, despite what the words may say, like a very good logical reasoning of why your point may not be true, at least for them, then their actions after that actually show the energy behind the words, where they oftentimes block you, unfollow you, whatever it is, just for a difference in opinion. Like X or Twitter was made to be the digital town square where people can easily, with an open mind, have these type of conversations. But we see so often on that platform that when they see something that they can slightly disagree with, what it feels as if is completely shatters their current reality, and they can't stand that. And so they'd rather block, unfollow, never ever see again any person that thinks differently from them. And it seems like you just had such an incredible confronting experience around that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel like you are getting what you want out of social media, and in particular Twitter?
That's the $1 million question, my friend.
So what do you think it is that you want from there? Like, why are you on there in the first place?
Two things come up. It's a good question. One is, I'll be honest, recognition that, like, I have some perspective to offer, that not like, oh, I have something to say that is going to invalidate what others are saying, but more like, hey, I have a unique take that I think is actually going to be beneficial and helpful to those with the ears to listen. But I probably right now, because there's still a little bit of probably doubt in my own words. Like, that's where, like, there's a little bit of my own projections happening, right, on what I'm writing, and people can feel that. So that's me taking ownership on that piece. So recognition is one thing, and that's multi-layered. The other is just practicing my expression and trying to be, like, there's two ways. I found two main ways people write on Twitter. One is, like, pretty much stream of consciousness, like, just whatever's coming through. Like, a really good writer is able to translate the contents of the mind into words, and then they can post it. There's some accounts that, like, are really, really good with this. And then there's people that are trying to craft a message. They're trying to create, they're trying to transfer, I don't know, they want, it's mixed bag, because part of it is like an art of how do I put my thoughts into a form. It's like an aesthetic that people are going to receive well, that, like, if you just posted slop, might not do as well. So there's an art to it. But at the same time, because of the social dynamics of Twitter, there's also I want to get likes, I want to get reposts, I want to get comments, I want to grow my followers, and unless you're someone who has high discernment, really high, especially online, it's so hard. Like, you're going to get caught in, like, the social validation aspect of it, right? So for me, it's like, I almost think of Twitter as like a dojo to practice. Like, can I speak my truth and not be attached to what I'm writing, so that I don't feel pulled into all that social dynamic stuff that makes me feel icky.
Yeah, most definitely. I love that. It seems like there's two huge parts of it for you, and that is, like you said, the recognition part of it you fully own, and that is a huge part of all social media, the metrics. That's why the metrics exist. Then there's also just you pretty much being able to look in the mirror of your own self and to see how far you can take your own way of self-expression. Which are two beautiful reasons. One thing I really want to let you ask more questions about is the recognition part of, like, very tangibly, what do you feel, let's say in a post set, whether you spend 5 minutes writing or 3 hours writing, what amount of recognition would feel like enough?
I can see through the question because I already know that if I got, let's just say, 20 likes and 5 comments, if I just put a number on it for a second, just as a hypothetical, the moment I get that, I'll want 40 likes and 15 comments.
Yeah.
So it's a great question because it's a loop. It's a thought loop. It's like I'm trying to find recognition and to give me the trust and love in what I'm saying from something outside of me. That's what's happening, I think.
Interesting. Wow. So I'd love to ask this question then. So let's just say a post is really well to whatever metric feels good for you at this time. So it does 50% or 500% better than the average post. Let's say you get 20 comments and 19 of them are fantastic. But then one is probably a post very similar to what the guy sent to you earlier on today, of a pretty logical, understandable, most people probably agree with if they were to read that comment back. How many positive comments would it take or likes would it take for you to reaffirm that your viewpoint that you expressed was worth expressing to counterbalance that one critique?
Honestly, Cam, I don't know if that's how it works for me or for anybody. Like, you know what I mean? It's a really interesting thing because I know I don't know, this is just part of my lived experience these days, is I know what the right way to interpret any given situation is, and then I compare how I actually respond to it, and then I notice the gap.
Oh man, I know exactly what you mean, because you know how you should think and you know how you should react, and so there's this version of yourself, this mindset that you know you're potentially one day capable of adopting, where nothing will ever trigger you and everything's completely fine and they can say whatever they want and it's valid but also invalid, and it's all that. But because when something like that happens and you don't feel that kind of nuanced non-duality, I let everything go, I let everything flow, I fully own my work, because you don't fully have that yet, and this, what's actually happening versus what you believe should happen, that gap is feels like the problem. Is that it? It's maybe less about the comment itself, but this gap is the real struggle. Is that right?
Yeah. Beautiful. Yes.
Wow. And you know, when we think of the emotion between where we want our mindset to be versus the feelings that actually take place when you see this comment, what emotion would you describe takes place here in that gap?
I would say some kind of self-judgment. So I don't know if that's an emotion, but yeah, like shame, self-judgment, shame. It's a pretty low vibrational emotion, I think.
So it's not anger, it's not grief, it's not, would you say, pride? It's not those. Would you say it's more shame?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of that. I'm trying to think of the emotion wheel. Like, what is shame laddered up to? Whatever. It feels like it's honestly. I could see a little bit of all of that in it. Like, there is some grief, there is some anger, especially when I'm seeing someone. Like, I was pretty upset, like frustrated, I should say. I wasn't actually upset, but like frustrated. I was like, these people don't. Like, they don't see I'm trying to help them, you know? Like, this guy's living proof of what I'm writing, and he has no idea. He doesn't understand. So yeah, there's frustration. Um, but I honestly, I think the loudest one is shame, or at least like a self judgment, a flavor of self judgment of like, oh, you know how you're supposed to respond to this, yet here you are responding this way, or here you are getting this trigger and reacting to it this way. And then these days, I'll catch myself in that loop as well, and I'll try to reframe it as like myself just trying to protect myself, and there's like love in that. It's like, even though there is judgment, that's okay, you know, but it's not, there's still like a lag, there's a delay right now.
Yeah, you use the word supposed to. Supposed to would mean that there is some type of way of being that we're should be. Supposed to, should, meant to, some can say can be. Where did that definition of what you're supposed to do come? Like, how did that come into your mind that's even a potential option of how you could have reacted in the situation?
That's a great question. The first thing that comes to mind is you know, through my own journey, I've just come to understand like these ideas, these concepts. You know, any spiritual text of any tradition will speak on things like non-attachment to outcome. You know, of how to, you know, the path to non-duality is to see everything that's occurring within you as love, just manifesting in different ways. So like I have this like, and it's not just conceptual, it's deeper than that. If it's like, I know, and this has honestly been something that probably is one of the loudest, like, I would say, sources of dissonance right now in my life, is like, I have this such a strong sense of what things are supposed to be like it's like a sense. It's so refined, or like precise, I should say, that like I notice myself and I immediately compare myself to that kind of state. You know, where, for example, in this example, I could have read that person's response, allowed the feelings of everything that happened to come up, given them with grace, you know, seeing that they're just forms of love in whatever way that they are, and they're trying to protect me, even though there's no real threat here. Once I see that as love, then I have clarity again, and I can see this person like, oh, this guy is just stuck in the survival or whatever. He has his own conditioning that's not allowing him to see my perspective, or the perspective. And then from that place, I can be compassionate, and I can think like the right approach, the loving response, the loving whatever, like, yeah, response to that becomes clear. So that whole thing is like how I think it's supposed to look. And then I compare what happens with me, where I'm like, oh, well, here I am getting a little bit triggered, and I'm like writing a response, and then I delete it, and you know.
Yeah. So, okay. I really would love to kind of go back to the moment where, whether it was on your desktop or your phone, you put out a tweet and you said 5 minutes later. So that's like pretty quick. It's amazing that someone can write that detail of multiple replies. I think you said 6 tweets, whatever it was, in 5 minutes. That means Twitter notifications are probably on for your things, whatever it may be. Something happened to make him respond quick. And, you know, you're probably seeing the tweet, probably has maybe a few likes already. That may be the first, or there may have been a few comments before that, but you're seeing it's getting some engagement, which, as you're probably checking, is like, oh, amazing. And then you read the lines of this guy saying what he said. I would love for you to, if you can, paint a picture of what thoughts and what potentially, if you can, emotions happened in that moment. Like, take me along the roller coaster.
Okay, so I just published this. Honestly, this was the first time I wrote something on this like nature. It was almost like an essay. Like, it was a very long form post that went into a lot of detail. So I was very happy and proud and like just content with what I wrote. And when I hit post, I was like just happy with it. I was happy with my work. And then again, within minutes, I see these responses, and it had the exact same emotional roller coaster you just mentioned, where at first I'm like, help, oh my gosh, I'm getting notifications, amazing, you know. And then I go and check in what this person is writing, and it's just like kind of obliterating it. And so there was like this feeling of like disappointment, like, oh, this thing I thought that might land didn't land. And so the immediate feeling is disappointment and a little bit of anger and frustration towards this person, you know, because like bro bursted my bubble. Let's be real.
Vibe killer,
right? and then I noticed my response, and then I noticed that I got frustrated, and then I noticed I was disappointed, and then I started judging that because I'm like, wait, I know better. This person isn't actually being like, he doesn't know any better. So like, why hold him to such standards or whatever it is? And so the self-judgment starts to form, the shame starts to come in, and then that starts to cycle into, oh, maybe I need to reevaluate how I use Twitter. Am I not like using it right? Like, why have I never felt, cohesive or coherent, or I've just never felt like I have a good relationship with this particular social media platform. It's changed my life without question. It has completely changed my life, but it's never felt right to me. And so it brought up this bigger question of like, what is this app for me? And I've had this kind of with all my social media apps. It's always like, I could trace my relationship over time to each of these apps and how I felt about them. Twitter has been recent. I've only started writing as of like 3 years ago. So, but I've seen so much change happen and so much like positive change happen in me from being able to express myself that I'm like, what am I working? What is this all for? What purpose does it serve? So it just spiraled into like the existential questions of like, what is this social media app? And then like I saw myself also start to soothe by scrolling more and just started reading other people's posts, like kind of frantically, which is really like not like me these days. I've been trying to like, I'm pretty much logged out these days. I've tried to create barriers to entry every time I try to go to Twitter because I have a habit of just like opening my phone and going to Twitter straight. So, but I was like scrolling people's tweets and I'm just like feeling so gross inside. I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? I don't care what these people are writing about. And then I there's certain people I do respect and I'm like, damn, like they probably think I'm a loser because I'm writing this stuff and this dude's like, ripping me up. So it was messy, man. It was messy.
Yeah. Okay. So just to kind of paint the picture even clearer, it seemed as if right when you saw him post what he did, at first we saw that he commented, you're like, amazing, 6 comments already, they just put this out 5 minutes ago. Then reading the context of those posts, it seemed like based upon what you said, it first triggered sadness. Almost, I would say, maybe a level of grief because the idea that this would be perceived perfectly no longer existed. And so there's that feeling, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, why didn't this go perfectly or go the way I wanted to? Oh, because this MF decided to give his opinion that makes logical sense and probably a lot of people would agree with, but I know also deep down isn't true because he's not seeing it from a high enough perspective or a more nuanced perspective. So what's up with that guy? Anger is the next one, it seemed, towards him. And then from anger, it felt as if there was pride, which was like, I'm better than him. What is he? He doesn't know anything. He doesn't get it. He's not ready yet. And then in that moment of pride, you realized, oh crap, I'm judging this person because they didn't act the way I wish they would have. And so it kind of went from grief or sadness to anger to pride. But then there was this kind of image where you were looking in the mirror and like, wait, I probably shouldn't be, back on that should thing, I probably shouldn't be as triggered by this or go through this emotional roller coaster as I am. And you ended that pride going down to shame because you had another statement of, wait, why'd I just go through this emotional roller coaster? I should just completely not care about what he's saying and be like, I understand your opinion. You live a different life than I do. You have different experiences. It's all good, man. Sending myself. You kind of wish you had that feeling. but you didn't. And it feels like that is where the real pain is. Does that resonate with you at all?
100%. Yeah.
Why do you believe that there is such a strong feeling within you that you must be a certain way?
Just going straight for the jugular, are we? I mean, the short answer is it's childhood conditioning. Yeah, it's a deep wiring from all kinds of things, family life, growing up in a city that was very very competitive, all about getting into good schools, getting good grades. That's all people talked about, getting into sports teams so that you can put in your resume or your application for college, doing extracurricular activities. Like there was just like this constant, every interaction was based around this idea of what are you doing for your college application all the time? Or what are you doing to get into a good high school, to get into the two best high schools in the city? Whatever, like, and so on and so forth. On top of that, being raised in a culture that's, I'm Indian, so in a very strict, academic focused culture with a mother who is very also strict. So, not a unique perspective, and a lot of us can relate to that, but that was the wiring, man, that I think still is in me to this day. And at the risk of sounding foolish, like I haven't broken out of that yet. It's still a story. It's still a program that's running. And yeah, I've had a lot of feelings, a lot of thoughts around knowing this to be the case, that it's still active. I feel so free as a person these days compared to who I was even a year ago, 2 years ago. It's absolutely ridiculous in the best way how beautiful my life is these days. Like I'm so grateful for everything, every single day, every single moment. But I know even in that there's like this program that's still active in my operating system that I haven't quite cracked.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing that, man. And I think it takes a lot to, just like I feel as if you did in the tweet that I haven't read, but I just assume based upon other tweets I've seen from you, that within itself is a pretty deep, nuanced perspective that you got to peel back the layers to really get to understanding. And so based upon what you just said, it feels as if a lot of your life, especially childhood, the most important years of our life when it comes to molding how we think and how we live for the next 80 years, whatever it may be, there seemed to have been, I think, just like most people, especially, growing up in America, growing up in the Western society, I guess all over the world, to say at least, it's plagued an entire generation. It seemed like there was a lot of shoulds. Is that fair to say?
100%.
And even, I mean, of course I know you personally, but even if I didn't, people can just tell that you are competent and intelligent, and you can navigate life with a relative amount of ease based upon the skills and somewhat maybe gifts that you've been given. And for some reason, though, it feels right for me that even if you did succeed, even if you did get into school and potentially the high school, all those other things, that the college and the job, it feels like even if you did accomplish the best of what it could have been of the shoulds, that based upon the should culture, that still wasn't ever even enough. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And just to add a little more to that, I had such bad or low self-esteem, for most of my life, where I believed I was pretty much worthless. Like I was going to amount to nothing. I grew up with a brother who was very gifted, academically, skipping grades and all this stuff, or skipping math classes, I should say. got into like good schools, all these things, right? And so I just grew up like believing I'm worthless, like literally, even though I got a 4.0 in high school and, you know, went to a decent undergrad college, did okay there, like didn't do great, didn't do bad. And life ended up working out fine for me. But when I was younger, there was just like this belief of, oh, I'm not really of any value to the world. Nothing in this world feels like home to me. And I thought that was because I haven't proved myself, because I need to earn people's love. I need to earn people's belonging. I need to earn people's respect. Because that's what I saw around me. All my role models that I was conditioned to look up to were families who were like Yale, Princeton, Harvard, doctors, finance, like working at Goldman Sachs as like a partner, making tens of billions of dollars. These are the people that I was constantly compared to. Like, look at them. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely, man. And I feel as if many people can relate that. It's like they were given a path to move through the duration of their childhood and also adult life that they themselves didn't choose. And it felt like what you said, the should statements talked about earlier, and also the need to statements that you just said. Were any of those like genuinely your choosing, or were those given to you?
Indoctrination. That's what it is.
Indoctrination. The external plaguing the internal.
Yeah.
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 So what if going forward, there's been a few times through this where we said that statements like I need to or I should, but just like we just said, that may not have started and may not be at this moment actually our beliefs. Like we said, it's an indoctrination, it's a programming caused with external. Are we open to the idea that just because we've carried this baggage of shoulds and need to, this very heavy suitcases and luggage through everywhere we've been in life, are we open to the idea that we no longer have to carry those beliefs, programs, level of indoctrination with us?
Yeah, 100%. And I honestly, again, it's like what you're saying is like, I know this to be true, yet it still exists. And that's what creates even more frustration for me. Like you should know better. You know this is a programming, so why can't you?
It's another should to talk about the shoulds. Yeah. I always look at it as like it's your ego trying to point you in a direction, but that same ego is like coming behind your ear and whispering you to like shame this part of you. It's like the ego trying to save itself by keeping it alive. You're shoulding the should statement, you know. So I see that all the time, man, and I felt that so deeply my entire life. So like, yeah, man, that's it makes perfect sense. Oh man. Okay, so all that being said, if there was, you know, we said it's indoctrination or programming that's causing us to be this way, right? There's programming in terms of what we should be, like the great student, you know, be a certain way, date a certain type of person, have this type of job, whatever. We know that. And it seemed as if we're at the point where we no longer resonate with that. And we are very good at observing when people tell us things or when we still have thoughts or beliefs that may tie into that story that doesn't serve us. It makes sense there. But it seems as if right now what's coming more and more onto our awareness is that there is another level to it of now that we understand there's a different path. Let's say it's spirituality or enlightenment or any type of denomination of religion, so Buddhism, Hinduism, whatever it is that you are interested in, that also brings its own baggage of shoulds. You should meditate like this, you shouldn't act in this way, you should be above this, you should see everything with unconditional love and that. Are we open to the idea that potentially the same thing that happened over here with the matrix and the college and the this and the job, and it may just be the same over here, just in a better wrapped package?
Yeah. Dude, the irony of all this is that this is what I literally wrote about in my tweet.
I would love if you can. I'd love a summary of the tweet if you can. Of course.
Yeah, basically I wrote that we are, from the day we're born, basically we're told from the external what to do, how to do it, what to live for, what things to value. And then for those of us that stumble onto this path of unbecoming, right, or unraveling into and coming back to ourself, or whatever you want to call it, enlightenment, the only, like, because we're conditioned from our youth to look outside of us for the answers, we go and look for traditions. We look for techniques. We look for meditations. We look for gurus. We look for this. We look for that. For all the answers of how do I become enlightened? How do I discover the nature to my true nature? How do I become one with what is? But like, so I was gently trying to point out that, like, at some point, like, those things are not useless, but unless we have our own, like, unless we're tapped into our own inner knowing of, like, this knowing that arises within us in a given moment of what is it that this moment is asking of me, and how to tune into that signal and get out of the noise of the mind. And if that voice tells us, go pursue this tradition, that's okay, because that's part of what is you're being called to. But if it's coming from the external of, like, I'm going to go down the Buddhist path because 5 people I know are happier in their life because they've also gone down the Buddhist path, therefore I'm going to go down the Buddhist path. And then you go down it with all these expectations of what's going to happen, and then you get confused 20 years in. You're like, why am I not feeling the same amount of peace that these people I know are feeling? There's no one to tell you in these traditions what's happening, because they're just honed in their tradition. They're going to make sure you follow the practices. They're there to help you. I mean, we're basically taking these ancient paths and then plopping them into a modern world that does not resemble the old world at all, and expecting the same outcomes, and expecting, I mean, it's not even about the outcomes, but you know what I mean. So anyways, it's the same idea of, like, we're conditioned to live a certain way. If you're fortunate enough, or, you know, for whatever reason you're on this path to enlightenment, this lifetime or next or whatever it is, one of the final steps is to let go of all frameworks, let go of all this teaching, let go of all of it. And even that itself is kind of a prescription in a way, right? So yeah, that was what I wrote about. I was just laughing. This is exactly what we're talking about right now.
I love it, man. I love it, man. It's so nuanced. It's as if you're seeing the programming in religion.
Yes.
You know, there's different levels to the programming. First, again, like we said, are all the matrix ones of the job, and you do this and you do that. And then there's religion that has so much merit to it, so much history and tradition in it. But it takes a certain level of bird's eye view to even question that. And it seems like you're there, which is amazing. And that being said, it feels as if not all parts of you are potentially ready to let go of the fact that even something like Buddhism, or at least the people you currently see practicing it and their modern practices may not be serving you below what you're looking for at this moment. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I didn't think of it that way. That makes sense.
Yeah. It's like, what if that framework is now baggage I want to drop? But what happens if I drop that framework? Isn't that the last one? Isn't that where all the people kind of end up? Isn't that the path to enlightenment? But what if there is potentially a reality where even that box isn't necessary?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's partially what this whole, I called it a spiral earlier, but really it is coming to the root of, like, why do I post online? What do I post on Twitter? What am I trying to do here? And this crossed my mind. I was like, I used to post to practice my expression. I'm pretty okay with it. Like, yeah, I can continue to practice and get to a more precise level of expression, sure. But I think the overriding reason why I'm writing is to earn the approval of all these people that over the last 2-3 years I've been looking up to, that I've been, you know, like this group was the first group I ever found in my life that like spoke somewhat the same language as me, and like they looked at mental health, we'll call it mental health for a second, in the same way I did. And so I think I projected some like status to them, like, oh, these people are, I put them on a pedestal basically. And so I think I'm starting to understand that like I don't need their approval, of course. And more than that, there is a conscious letting go, I think, that I'm ready to do. That I've been feeling for a while. This isn't just like a result of today was just like another catalyst. And these days, everything that is dissonant in me that doesn't feel peaceful is like someone's freaking blasting, into my brain. It's so you can't avoid it, basically.
Yeah, like all levels of misalignment now feel like a hazardous substance right next to you, and you must get rid of it immediately. I know exactly what you mean.
There's no hiding from it. Like, it demands action. Like, this is devotion to truth. Like, it's not even about me. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, but my current state is frustration that like I see the programming, it's still running. I know the programming is obsolete, but it still is there, and as a result, I continue to do some of the same actions that I've always done, which is like post online, post on Twitter, and get triggered when people comment like this, or sometimes I'll get triggered if no one responds, no one comments or likes anything at all, because I'm like, you guys are missing these bangers, like.
I love that. That's incredible. So it seems like we're talking about there are two different types of programming, evolutions of programming, layers of the onion of programming that we've had so far. First was most of your life, more than likely the matrix part, and there was a certain set of tasks, accomplishments you felt like you must do ever since childhood, and more than likely there were a few people that were pretty much the monitors watching you to make sure you're on that path. And because they were your monitor or your manager, you deeply sought their approval. It probably wasn't everyone. You probably didn't care the approval of all 8 billion people in this world. It was probably a handful of people, probably less than 5. For most people, it's mother, father, siblings, uncle, best friend from high school, whatever it may be. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And so, not saying that doesn't still exist. It may still exist to some extent. But when we transferred more to a more nuanced perspective, we kind of, even though we haven't fully let go, we see from a higher level, we can observe that matrix programming and the monitors or managers of that lifestyle is something that no longer serves us. So we've kind of shifted to more of a traditional way of seeking, of religion, of seeing the world, in which there's a certain ideology, and then there's also maybe a new level of monitors and managers there. Now, these people may not know us personally. They may not be related to us. They may not be having our phone number and calling us ever so often. They might not even know we exist. But there's an idea of them in our minds, probably certain people on Twitter now, that seem to be the hub of where you've learned about these nuanced or new ideas that have been around for a very long time, these ideologies. And these people have almost taken the place of the friends of him in the past. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, well said.
And so it's been almost like a transference of your own belief system and also, let's say, monitors of the programming. Is that fair to say?
Spot on, man.
So what's happening more than likely is this tweet today was probably not like a monitor you've ever really thought of before. It was probably someone who's never really been on your awareness, but is a symbol of the monitors that you do have here, because on the same platform, because talk about the same beliefs, because you feel like they may react in a similar way. He is symbolizing what they may say, and that within itself is triggering the F out of you. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
So Number one, having that awareness is huge.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's easy. It's probably pretty painful, but it seems as if the people that we've associated with this new ideology also is no longer serving us.
Yes.
And so if the first foundational level of programming that most people still have and may never leave, being the matrix that we talked about and the opinions of friends and family, now that you've been able to remove yourself almost fully from that, maybe not 100%, but graduate to a new level of this, of ideas and the gatekeepers of this idea that we may believe exist, and now we believe we want to graduate from that, it seems as if what we're really freaking sick of is externalizing our internal feelings.
Can you elaborate
It's like
on
we
that?
just want to be done with everyone outside being able to have any handling over how we feel. Is that right?
Yes.
What comes up for you around that when I say that?
Can you elaborate just a little bit on that point? Externalizing.
Of course.
Yeah.
So you've graduated to a new level of ideology, and with that ideology, there's handlers, if you want to call it that, managers, monitors, people that either know us in person or we know of that we deeply respect and admire them and their opinions. Those ideas and the people that we symbolize to be the gatekeepers of those ideas feels like a way of life that we no longer want to have.
Yes.
We kind of want to rid ourselves of needing to put ourselves in the box for the idea, and also potentially needing the approval of those people that we've made up, as we know, in our minds for this new idea. Is that fair? We're trying to let go of all the luggage and,
Right.
and the people
Yes.
that are stuck in that luggage.
Yes.
So in order to do that, oftentimes we have this yearning inside of that it is possible. We kind of innately know it's possible, but we don't know how necessarily to do so. We know how it can feel, like has been written about in the books over time, of non-duality thinking, at peace with everything, loving everyone unconditionally, and seeing exactly in every given moment as soon as it happens, the reason for it happening, all these things. And so it probably pisses us off because the destination is so clear. And we know we've made progress, but we've kind of, in some form, it feels like stumbled our way through. And in other forms, it feels like we've been on a fighter jet to get there. It's been really fast and also messy and intense. But despite how far we've came, we still know there's quite a bit more to go of truly letting go, of truly being at peace with how we express and however people may react. What I would implore people in this situation to ask themselves is, we already kind of know what works to get us from where we were as a child to where we are now. And that has served us deeply and could probably serve the far majority of the population to learn. But this gap of knowledge of which we do not have, or wisdom or experiences we do not have, is what we're deeply yearning to have, to feel this enlightenment, or whatever you want to call it. It probably, the reason why we're not there is because even though we know it exists, we're not exactly sure on the process of getting there. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Are we open to the idea that to get to where we want to go, it's going to take us doing the thing we've never done before?
Yeah. Yes.
As I say that, you know, it's a very broad and there's no real understanding of how this may go. If I were to have you sit with the idea that this innate feeling you have within of this potential destination of a mindset, that it is possible, that it is closer than we think, and that it potentially is going to take doing something that we never allowed ourselves to do before. That's why we don't have it. What do you feel as if that thing would be?
Nothing's coming up. I completely understand the question, and I can answer this question in other domains of my life pretty easily. But this domain, I almost feel like what I did today was at least half of what I would answer your question with, which is share something that I know might trigger people anyway, and put it out, and put some time and effort and heart into it, and just let it let it rip. Whatever happens.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's an amazing place to start, right? That's how we do everything. It's trial and error, and then taking the first step forward to what feels right and going from there, and setting the intention of, I'm not going to let the opinions of others affect me, and just put it out there. Even if it does affect you, that's okay. We at least try to take a step forward. That's very that's a level of courage that most people have never had. So that's amazing.
Because
that's definitely a huge step in the right direction.
If I can add some context to this, like what I wrote, it was hard for me to write, and I've been thinking about this for a long time, because everybody I fault, this is basically, I knew this is going to offend people, because I spend my time, or like the people who spend their time on Twitter in this space that I'm in, they are very like attached to their methodologies. And that's what I'm trying to say is, even though these methodologies have helped us, become more free in the ways that they have, we become attached to them as a way to ultimate truth. And then we get lost in the same games that we play, 2 levels below, when we're not as free. It's the same thing, just manifesting in a different way. And so for me to basically, and I really tried with love and kindness to like put this post out. I wasn't trying to attack anybody. For me to put this out was a huge thing, because these people who we talked about, who I didn't, this was not in my awareness till you mentioned it. So thank you, because now I see it. You're right. Where these people, I interpreted as like my handlers, my caretakers. In some way, I was projecting authority onto them. And there is no single person. It's like this blob of just like this, this formless thing I created, this entity I created in my head of who these people could be. And then I don't want to offend this blob of like, which is really just nothing. It's just like an invention of my mind, right? So for me to put this piece out was basically me stepping into my power in a way. So now, but here's the funny thing is I don't think I realized that until this conversation. I don't think I realized consciously. So of course I was going to get triggered. Like this was literally supposed to happen.
It seems like you kind of wanted it, right? You
yeah.
said, I knew this was going to get triggered. And you're like, I kind of want this to come up right now. I kind of want to piss people off so that I can react to it. Maybe not always conscious. I mean, maybe you weren't thinking that when you hit send, but you kind of wanted yourself to put yourself in a situation where you'll have to evolve and mutate and potentially change a pattern different from last time. Is that fair?
Yeah. And this is what it's been. Like you mentioned earlier, it's like stumbling into enlightenment or whatever. Like this is what it's been for me. It's not like I know the process of like, okay, I wake up this morning, I know what I'm supposed to do. It's like there's this deep knowing of I want to write this and post it. And then I have a conversation like this, or I'll take some cannabis, or I'll do some meditation, whatever. And then the insight hits me of, oh, that's what happened. So it really is stumbling through, which is a funny, like you talk about like an upward spiral, right? It's just chaotic. But yeah, I did not, wow. All of a sudden I feel really like in my power right now. I feel freaking great.
Amazing. Well, that's the whole point of all this, right? It's to remember who we are. And so I'm so glad to hear that it feels as if you are in your power, because basically, even if it may be happening unconsciously in the present moment, even an hour or two after, whenever it was, you're able to see, oh, maybe I did set myself up to make this happen for my highest growth. And in some way, we're like, did I really just put myself through pain for no reason? In other ways, we're like, that's awesome. And I feel better now, because this exact same experience that left you in an hour or two ago through that anger, no, first it was sadness, then anger, then pride, and then wrapping that in a bundle of shame because we're not meant to feel that way back down, seemed like a reverse spiral.
Yeah.
But then it prompted this conversation, which led, I was just asking questions, it felt, to you understanding that maybe you did that on purpose to give yourself the playground to explore how it is you can react differently than you have for the past 30 plus years of your life.
You nailed it.
It's amazing. How are you feeling right now?
I feel like I'm gonna float away.
Amazing.
I think this is what I was writing too. Like, this is like that knowing. It's not something we can grasp. We can't put words. We can't conceptualize. It can't be understood. It's like we're just being pulled in this direction, and we just trust that that's the direction we're meant to go. And yeah, like, and part of it is you don't know what's happening until you do, and that just happens over and over and over, right? Like I've talked, like, every week it's like something comes up, we get triggered, and we're like, why is this happening? This is so intense. And then the next day we're like, oh, that's why. Wow. And like I'm like 2x in my expansion, right? So
it feels like a perfectly curated orchestra. It's like one of the tunes. I'm not into music, so please excuse me if I'm getting the vocabulary wrong. But when there's a more deep, more somber note being played, in the grand scheme of things, we know it's a song. So very soon it's going to come back up and then come back down and come back up and come back down. And that within itself, that change is what makes the song beautiful. And, one thing, you and I went to a rave not long ago, and there's a whole bunch to talk about on that, and it was a fantastic experience. What makes those songs great is the buildup.
Yeah.
And then it goes a complete opposite direction, sometimes a lower type thing. But when we think about our life, the 80 years or so we live, it's so hard for us because we're so in it, and everything's so personal. We take these downward moments, these feelings that we had 2 hours ago, as something bad and that we shouldn't have. But if we looked at it as a song being played in a symphony, the most beautiful orchestra players ever exist, there's something incredible to it. So it seems like what we really need is to take steps back to observe that it's all beautiful and to embrace both the highs and lows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that resonate with you?
It does. I wonder, does that realization ever actually settle in fully? Or every time, is there at least somewhat of a feeling of falling? When you're falling back on your chair, if you're sitting down and someone yanks the chair out, it's like there's this feeling of like you're weightless for a little bit, where you're like, what's happening is, and yes, every time it happens, it's a little bit less intense, but I wonder if it ever actually goes away. I guess if you're like truly enlightened, maybe, but what you're saying resonates. I'm just curious, like,
yeah. Well, maybe hypothetically, it doesn't ever go away. Just how we perceive the falling shifts. Because if you see the life as this perfect symphony, it's going to be a good song no matter what. And so you're not really worried about when you're falling. You're like, no matter what happens. Doesn't mean you still don't get angry or prideful or shameful or feel guilt or whatever it may be. It's just you realize this is just another loop on the roller coaster. It's just another note in the symphony, and everything's okay. Because the opposite of that, of not feeling anything any given time, is numbness.
Right.
And even at its highest level, what we all like potentially think is possible, but we don't know of anyone or any human being that's ever said this is actually happening, that we are all like constantly at 100% happy at all moments. That's only possible if we're hooked up to morphine 24/7. It's literally changing the biochemistry in our body to only have that. And that's not an existence anyone wants, to be hooked up to a hospital bed like that. So what if it's more of just embracing the symphony and knowing after like this pattern that you saw a few hours ago of all these emotions, and then a newfound awareness a few hours later to make all this feel worth it. And I'll feel like, oh, all these emotions aren't really serving me anymore. I just let them go. I don't feel it anymore because I have newfound awareness that it's all beautiful and I'm now past that. I'm now at a higher vibration, and that served me for a period of time, but it didn't serve me now. That oftentimes, what if enlightenment is just a game of pattern recognition? You know it's going to happen again and again and again, and just being at peace with that.
Yeah. And I think the peace is like, it's not to be pedantic, but it's like a non-attachment. It's like we're not holding on to it. We're not over exerting ourselves while it's happening. We're just kind of watching it happen and letting it happen. And in a way, I'm kind of doing that even now, just talking about it with you. It was like, you know what? This is on my awareness. Let me talk about it. I don't know why I'm talking about it, but it's in my awareness. And then here we are. And 4 hours after the fact, and I feel like the loop is closed in some sense. And maybe it's, I'm sure it'll come back, but it's at least somewhat more closed than it was 4 hours ago,
Yeah.
This is all it is.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I've noticed, I don't know about you, but you reach this point where these moments of this loop feels more exciting and enjoyable, and what we remember from the first day or the month of October more than anything else to do. Like, we remember this more than the new restaurant we tried out. We remember this more than the place we traveled to for the weekend. It's like, we remember these moments of growth, these moments of feeling human, these moments of feeling the emotions more than anything else.
Yeah. So well said.
All right, y'all. Hope you enjoyed the very first episode of Hot Seat. I plan on having Akaash back quite often. I'm going to keep him going as a continuing guest just because I love talking to him. He has become one of my best friends, and just, as you can see, just fantastic conversations. And I'm very much looking forward to having other people on this podcast. I don't know if it's even a podcast. It's a video series of this, wherever we end up putting it, whatever it turns out being, whatever name it has, it's all around the same concept. That is having real conversations that have meaning behind it, and conversations that connect us deeper more than ever before, allow us to see the humanness more than ever before. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like below, and please subscribe if you want to receive any type of notifications potentially of new episodes. And if you want to be on the hot seat, if that's what we're calling it, or whatever this turns out to be, just DM me on all the platforms linked below. I'd love to connect with you. Thank you so much, y'all. Love you.